Some people may not like to hear this, but right now, there is no bigger and better wrestling company in the entire world than WWE. That is just a matter of fact. If you look at the numbers they're doing as far as attendance, if you look at the fact that they just signed another billion-dollar contract for SmackDown to go over to USA Network, if you look at the fact that they just merged with the UFC to join into this major conglomerate known as TKO, and the fact that they are more profitable now than they have ever been in the very long history of that company, it's very difficult to say that there is a better wrestling company right now as far as drawing fans, drawing interest, and making the shows entertaining. Because one thing that has changed over the past 2 years is the leadership in WWE. It went from Vince McMahon, who many thought was tiresome, out of touch, and whose storylines never really got off the ground, to the era of Triple H, who has reinvigorated talent, reinvigorated the art of storytelling, reinvigorated the emphasis on pro wrestling in WWE. Now, that doesn't mean that the company is without fault. Remember, they did, of course, fire over 100 employees right after they made one of the biggest deals in the company's history. And of course, they have talent releases. There's reports that there could be future cuts down the line. However, if we look at it from an entertainment standpoint and solely that, one thing's for sure, it is that Triple H changed the game in WWE. You look no further than the work that he has done with putting an emphasis on younger talent. Of course, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, the people who have been there, done that, been built up throughout the Vince McMahon regime, they were always going to be highlighted in a favorable manner. But if you look at talent who came from outside, if you look at talent like LA Knight, who's gotten over massively with the audience and who WWE have let and allowed to get over. If you look at Grayson Waller, someone who in a Vince McMahon era may have had the quote-unquote rocket ship strapped to him, but he wouldn't have looked, I think, as good as he does now, having high-profile programs with Edge, having high-profile segments with John Cena, having high-profile matches with legends of this business, and being built up, being billed as a star with his own show. It's things like that, and of course, the return of actual storytelling to WWE that I think have brought a lot of lapsed fans back. And of course, AEW did that a while ago, back in 2019 when they came onto the scene. There were many fans who felt alienated by Vince McMahon's lack of storytelling, by Vince McMahon's chaotic booking of WWE that would change on a dime reportedly. And the creation of All Elite Wrestling brought those fans back. And I think in a very similar manner, when it was announced that Vince resigned, I believe there were people who slowly and surely came back to the product as a result of word of mouth of how Triple H was booking the show. And if you ask me, I don't think that there's a comparison as far as what the show looked like under Vince McMahon from, let's say, 2018 to what the show looked like under Triple H over the past 2 years. It is just not even close. Triple H's version is objectively, by all metrics, by all measurements, better. It is better. This is the best product that WWE has been pushing out in decades. And no disrespect to the stars of the past few decades, no disrespect to John Cena, Randy Orton, all of the above. But when you look at the show today, it is, to quote Cody Rhodes, undeniable that Triple H's version is by far more intelligent, more serious, more logical than Vince McMahon's has been over the past nearly 2 decades. Vince McMahon's style of booking was whatever I think works in this moment currently, I am going to book in this moment currently. If I don't believe it's going to work, I'm going to change it. While Triple H has more of a, I'm going to stick to my original vision as much as possible. Of course, things change around, that happens, and you have to do that a little bit more in this current day and age and have your finger on the pulse, which I think Triple H mostly has done a very good job of doing. And I know people haven't been big fans of things like the Cody Rhodes WrestleMania thing where he did not win the title, but even that, I think, was Triple H kind of sticking to the original plan, whatever it may be. Maybe it's Cody winning at WrestleMania 40. Maybe it's them telling the story of Cody's slow climb back up to the world title picture. Whatever it is, one thing you can say is that Cody losing wasn't without reason. More fans, I think, allowed that to happen and are giving that time to breathe and play out way more than they would have if Vince McMahon was booking the show, and it's for good reason. Because if something like that happens under Vince, then it's very likely that they would have just forgotten about Cody and he may have become an upper mid-card guy. Think about Finn Balor. Finn Balor was booked to the moon his first few weeks on the main roster, beating Roman Reigns, beating Seth Rollins, both clean to become the first ever Universal Champion. And then he gets injured in an unfortunate accident that took place during that Universal title match. And he comes back and he was never the same, and he has never been booked the same, even to the point where Triple H, a person who respects and helped build up Finn Balor in WWE, has not been able to rehab him to the point where he was back in 2016. So again, I'm not saying it's perfect, but it's objectively true. Triple H and his version of WWE is way better than Vince McMahon's.